the majority, the great majority of the would-be suicides believed that they were going to end up in paradise, having committed this act of self-destruction. But this was kind of a secondary motivation, a kind of fringe benefit, I'd say, for the great majority of them. The main motivation was actually nationalistic, or fighting the occupation, the Israeli occupation was their main stated motivation.
And in that being their primary motivation was to fight the occupation, did they have a sense of how this would further their cause? Could they explain that?
We did not discuss the general, let's say, strategic purpose of the act with the would-be suicides. We discussed it with the commanders. They were different people, higher level. They had a broader view of the situation, and for them it was mainly an act of publicizing their struggle, publicizing their cause, demonstrating how desperate they were. I mean, the Palestinians are so desperate as to be willing to kill themselves for fighting the occupation. I mean, that was the stated strategic purpose, I'd say.
And for the people who were the actual suicide bombers, presumably they all said they volunteered for that, but were they able to throw any light to what degree perhaps they might have been pressured, or they might have been nurtured into that role?
About 50% of the would-be suicides we interviewed volunteered on their own initiative, while the remaining 50% or so were kind of drafted after being approached, sometimes pressured, by recruiters of the organization. Even with those who volunteered on their own whim, on their own initiative, an interesting finding, I think, of the study was that it was presumably mainly a result of trying to behave in accordance with public and peer group norms, trying to be admired by the guys, by the friends. I mean, and that's why the majority of the would-be suicides that we tested psychologically display the personality pattern of, dependent, avoidant personality. Dependent personality. And these are guys who find it hard to say no to figures of authority, and and people who tend to behave in accordance with group pressure, group standards. So these were guys who thought that it would be great to volunteer for a job that the great majority of society thought was a great patriotic act.
And some of the people that you interviewed were people who had the bomb strapped to them, pressed the button, but the bomb didn't go off. Did those people have a sense of failure or relief?
Well, that's a great question. Most of them, the great majority of them, had a sense of relief. I think all of them, actually, all but one, I'd say, said that they would not repeat this attempt once they are released, if they have an opportunity. There were a couple of people who were among 2 or 3 people among those who we interviewed who were suicidal. Severely suicidal. There were a larger number who were lightly suicidal, but kind of 2 or 3 who were severely suicidal, and these said that they might try to carry out a suicide act once they have the opportunity, but they did not talk about violent, terrorist suicide act, but kind of personal.
Did any or many of them admit to being afraid?
Yes, 2/3, almost 2/3, 66% of those who we interviewed admitted that they were afraid, that they hesitated. Some were between being recruited and being dispatched on the mission, and actually fear increased exponentially, I'd say, increased dramatically towards the execution of the suicidal attack. Once the materialization of the suicidal act seemed imminent, they were quite afraid. Most of them. This was the point where fear reached its peak, and those that dropped out, that decided to abort the mission, 50% of them did it just in the very last few hours after being dispatched.
And the ones who decided to drop out of the mission, did they feel that they'd lost face in front of their peers?
Yes, they felt that they had, in almost all cases, they felt that they had to find some good explanation for doing it. So in some cases, they said that they tried to carry it out, but they saw suddenly they saw that there were Israeli forces in the area, so they had to return.